My pleasure.
Yo, that's so sick, bro. Is that a big ass banner? Is that the shit you put up behind you when y'all play?
No, this is a smaller one that we put up for on the guitar amps.
Oh, dope. Okay.
Yeah, I have a bigger one than that, but this is like, if I can get it to work here. Yeah, whatever.
Boom. No, that looks good. What's up, everybody? How you doing? Welcome back to the Punk Rock Review Podcast. I have a very special guest today, all the way from Belgium. We have DWID HELLION of the hardcore band Integrity, a band that I've been listening to for a very long time, and I'm extremely honored and very excited to talk to you. So how you doing, DWID?
I'm doing good, Randall. How you doing, man?
Man, working holidays. I got 3 kids, so it's kind of hectic. I didn't even consider that they'd be out of school this week, and woke up this morning and walked in and was like, oh shit, all the kids are home. So, other than that, I'm good, man. Living life, dude, doing the best I can. I didn't know that you were living in Belgium until fairly recently. What made you go out there and like relocate completely?
I moved to Belgium about a little over 20 years ago.
Whoa.
So I've been living here a long time.
I had talked to some friends, I guess it was not 20 years ago, 15 years ago. I guess I knew you were out there. I just didn't know you lived there. That's cool, man. How is it out there? It's probably quite a bit different, I would think.
Yeah, it's all right. It's quiet. It's I live in a smaller part of the country. A small village called outside of a bigger city called Ghent.
Nice.
But the city's not that big. It's a medieval city, and near my house is like I could go for a walk and there'd be like castles and things like that. So,
dude, that's awesome.
It can be inspiring sometimes.
Heck yeah, especially doing like visual art, creating things, music, anything really. If you got an atmosphere, a place like that. I just moved out to I call it the sticks, man. I'm like an hour outside of Houston now, and I used to be in the city, and boy, it's almost like a culture shock. It's very different out here, but I can definitely relate to wanting to get away from the hectic. The city life is it's awesome, but there's drawbacks to everything, I guess. I started seeing that you have been, at least recently that I can tell, putting up a lot of your visual art. How long have you been doing that? What inspired you to do it? I really enjoyed the style. It kind of reminds me of the band that y'all were touring with, Spirit World. It has a lot of that imagery. At least to me, when I saw it, I thought of that. Maybe it's because you were touring with them. I don't know, but it's beautiful. So what got you into that? How long have you been doing it?
I've been drawing probably most of my life, if not all of my life. I started, with music, it became an accident based off of doing creative things, and I didn't, and I probably still don't know how to make music exactly, but I look at music in the way that collage is made.
Okay.
Like put pieces together and things like that. So that's kind of how I visualize music instead of think about it as musical. My whole trajectory came, I guess, from doing that kind of thing, arts and crafts, and keeping myself occupied. I grew up in a very desolate area, like as you said earlier, the sticks in Indiana, and there was nothing but cornfields around me. So to fight the boredom, I learned to draw, and I learned to make my own toys and make weird things with sound, and do all kinds of different experiments just to keep myself occupied and not go crazy. So
you've been making music for a while, before streaming was a thing. How has that really affected you, and do you like it at all? What's your opinion on the way that music is right now? I know we used to get an album, listen to the album, tour on the album, and then write a new album. And now it's so different because of how digital sales and streaming and just downloads for free, whatever. It's just ingested different. So I was wondering how that's affected you over the years, whether or not you like it, or what is it that I don't know. How do you approach that?
I don't know. I don't know if I take it as necessarily a negative thing, but I don't really think about it. I don't really use streaming myself.
Okay.
The kind of music that I generally tend to listen to isn't even on that kind of platform or those platforms, Apple or Spotify or whatever.
Okay.
I don't think that they're very fair with the way that they take, that they ask me to pay them $130 a year to use their service. But they don't give me any money for my songs, so I don't subscribe to it myself. But I'm not bitter about it. I just don't care, I mean, the same thing was true with radio, I guess, to a certain degree, but you would get publishing money from that. I think that, the upside would be that people who are, like you said, you're listening to one thing and it led you down a path to different things when you're driving the other day. So I think that probably happens a lot to people where they're listening to one thing and maybe they'll come across some of my music, or they're listening to my music, they'll come across somebody else's music. So that can be good for people to learn about different music. I mean, I've never really kind of relied on making my living off of that kind of stuff, off of the plays of the songs. So it never really affected me in a strong way financially. If that's what you're asking.
I was just curious as how you felt about it, just in general. That answer is very appropriate. I just think that it's so different for somebody that has, because there's like three groups of people. You have the people that were before it and don't care because they don't do anything now, and then you have folks like around our age group that are like some before it and some after it. And then you have the young kids. That's all they know. And I like to talk to the people in our age group because we've been able to kind of witness both things. It's almost like talking about how do you feel about, before the internet, post-internet, because the whole world's different because of it. And the whole music world is different because of streaming. And I don't think it's negative necessarily either. I just was curious as to your opinion on it all. Well,
I started making records in like 1988. And then 10 years after that, they invented the MP3. So I'm from the prehistoric times, I suppose. And the internet didn't exist back then either. So we would do flyers and promote shows with flyers, things like that. We would tour without GPS.
Dude,
we would
right?
tour with a map that was like a big piece of paper you'd fold out, and then you get lost all the time. Or sometimes the venue would be closed or burned down the week or 2 weeks prior to us being on tour, and we'd show. There was literally a time that had happened where the venue had burned to the ground, and we showed up in the middle of America. I don't remember where it was, but there was not much going on, and we happened to see one kid on a skateboard, so we asked him if he knew anybody that might have been associated with the show, and he happened to know the guy, so we were able to connect with him because we ran across the kid on a skateboard.
That's incredible.
But nowadays, you can reach everybody anywhere in the world, as we're doing right now. And that's a good thing, I mean, when they invented television, they said that the movies was going to go out of, business. And when they invented television, they said the radio was going to go out of business.
Right.
So it's always like that. You got to adapt to things. I don't think about it. I like technology. I like the advancements that it affords me in a creative way.
Yeah.
So, other than that, I don't pay much attention to. My family has a subscription to the Apple platform.
Okay.
And we have a karaoke machine, and we can use that. And so that's
pretty cool. I didn't know they offered that. I guess it makes sense. They got the lyrics that kind of scroll up and down sometimes.
I didn't know it either, but I'm even in the karaoke pool of it. And what you can do is there's some kind of a button on the phone, and you push it when you're in the Apple application, and there's a level where you can turn down the level of the voice to 0, where the voice is gone, and then it runs the lyrics around. It's in that thing where you see the lyrics up to the right hand corner. If you have the Apple one, you can turn it down. Not everybody has it, but most of it does have it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that existed.
I mean, when I do karaoke, I don't do my own songs, but it was an interesting thing to discover that they had that ability.
Man, how funny would it be if you did karaoke, did your own song, and then like didn't crush it? Like people would be like, "What? I thought he would know the lyrics." Like, come on, DWID.
Like vocal test, I think lyrics of that one.
I was literally thinking about that. How funny that would be to get up and do vocal tests if you were even just like a fan. That'd be a pretty fun one to do. You could do that one drunk. Wouldn't matter, you know.
It's on there, so
that's awesome.
You're welcome to try. Yeah, we have a commercial for these guys.
Right. Now we're gonna not get paid for that. It's okay. It's okay.
I'm just kidding. I don't care, man.
No, I certainly don't give a shit. So, what do you like to do in your spare time? Do you like to kind of? You said you're out by yourself, a little more secluded. Do you like to do active stuff? You got to go out and hike and things like that, or you just do painting and drawing, hang out with the family?
I mostly work.
Okay.
I make music and I make artwork for the music. Most of that artwork that you see on those that you were talking about on the Instagram, those are like drawings I make for like test press covers and.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I scroll through there kind of quick. I don't often read the stuff when I should.
It doesn't say that in there. It's just really something I do for fun. I think the people who want that stuff can appreciate it if it's handmade or something, and it gives me an excuse to draw, so I do it, that's all.
Yeah, I create a lot of stuff. I paint and I do screen printing. Those are the two things that I like to do. I draw a little bit, but it's mostly I fell in love with screen printing. I just really, really enjoy the process of seeing if I can make this image something I can repeat it on different backgrounds and stuff. I do like little collages and prints and things. So,
well, that's how my band started, with screen printing.
Oh, really?
I was doing screen printing at school. I went to an art school, and the teacher had to leave halfway through the year for he lost his job there, and I was the guy who knew how to do screen printing. So I was a student, and they said, well, if you help the other students do printing, then we will let you just do that. You can do whatever you want. You can print your whatever it is you want to use, and so that's what I did. And I would print my shirts of what I guess would be streetwear, but this was like in the 80s, And I had planned to have a band, but it was more like a dream or something, like, oh, one day I'll have a band. It wasn't like something that I had materialized yet.
Okay.
But I'd make shirts, and I had a lot of friends who were in bands, so I printed some shirts of what would be my band. And I'm friends with those guys from the band Gorilla Biscuits.
Okay.
And at the time, they had a 7-inch out, and they were going on tour. And at this time, I was living in Ohio, and they came through town, and I gave them some shirts that I had printed at school, because I knew that they'd have they wouldn't be able to do laundry and that type of thing.
Right.
So I gave them shirts, and they happened to just one of them wore the shirts when they went to Chicago, and this record company guy said that he wanted to put out their full-length record.
Okay.
Because at the time they only had their 7-inch out, and Walter, I think is he the bassist or the guitar player?
Oh.
Well, whatever. Walter,
yeah, I'm not sure.
Played us in the band. I think he might. I don't know. Anyways, he was approached by this record company guy, and he politely said, "Hey, I already have an album recorded for Revelation, and it's coming out already. But our friend has this band. Maybe you should put out his band." And he gave him my phone number, and I got a call, and I had to come up with a demo. So I did, and then I had a record.
Dude, that's badass. You like
shirts was how I got into music, I guess, and I love screen printing. Like there's some cool things you can do. Like, for example, when you're printing, if you're not so, like you said, you want to do one-offs. So if you're doing a shirt and the design wants to look like fire, you could take like yellow and red plastisol ink and drizzle it onto your screen, and then you pull it. And before you do it again, before you take it off, you drizzle over the stencil itself with some of the other colors that you see are not represented. So if everything sort of came out like a washed orange, then you take some of the red and you sort of just like dribble it over it, so it's like just stringy kind of line. And then you do the same with the yellow. Then when you pull it back again and take it up, it'll have this extra it'll be as if you had 3 screens instead of just one. It's a trick around that to make it look, and then the fire looks like fire. So
and then every shirt's got its own look.
For the band Ringworm, they had a fire look one point, and I printed the shirts for them when I had a shirt company, and that's the trick that I would do, and it really came out pretty cool.
Yeah, I just started experimenting with something very similar to that with adding different colors. Is I'll if I want to use like let's say like a blue, but it's on a black shirt and the blue's kind of dark, I'll lay down white first and then I'll drip down like acrylic ink into the white, screen print ink. And when I pull it, you pull it twice and it just blends it perfectly almost. It'll have a little variant in the color, but then again, it also makes each shirt kind of a one-off because they all look a slight bit different. But yeah, there's all kinds of cool things you can do with screen printing. It's a pretty amazing art. It's hard to master it though. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I'm still learning, and I've been doing it for a while. So that's really amazing. You kind of manifested the band out of screen printing t-shirts. I didn't know that. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Did you create the integrity skull? I like the image. I just don't know a whole lot about the history of it.
So what happened was, I'm a big fan of Danzig, Misfits, Sam Hain kind of stuff. And I remember reading an interview with Danzig and the artist Pusshead. Pusshead asked him, where'd you come up with that Danzig skull, the logo that they use in Sam Hain and they use in the Danzig band. And he said, oh, it's in this comic book that I liked, and I just redrew it out of there. So that stuck in my head. And then I read this comic called Blood, a Tale. And it was a vampire story. I like vampire stories. And so I'm like, well, if it works for Danzig, you can't go wrong. So then I redrew this skull that was on one of the pages. It wasn't a drawing. It was a painting. It was supposed to be a portrait of a vampire, and it was full color. And so then I redrew it in a stark contrast, black and white, high contrast kind of way. And I enhanced some parts I thought needed enhancing and stuff. And then I started making stickers and things and putting them everywhere. And eventually people started to recognize it a bit.
I think that's awesome. And that's where you get some of the best stuff. I mean, you take look what the Misfits, they took a direct image and made it this probably one of the top 5 most recognizable band images, I would think. I don't know many that are more popular and more recognizable than the Misfits one, but that's awesome. I've always loved that skull. I didn't know where it came from.
I would imagine that the Misfits have probably surpassed the actual Crimson Ghost old series. I don't think people even know that exists at this point. I think it's just known as the Misfits skull. I think it's overwhelmed the history for the original at this point.
Yeah, I would say so. I would be pretty shocked if many of the younger kids these days knew that that's where it came from at all. So
it was past I'm 50, almost 53 years old, and that's past my time as well. So it wasn't like that. I was going to to see that nickel,
right.
Stuff.
I only saw that movie at all because it was something that my friends were super into because of the Misfits. So, I mean, it definitely became the Misfits image more than anything else. What kind of plans do you have for Integrity over the next year or so?
Well, I have a couple shows coming up at the beginning of December, which is in a couple weeks. And then I have a couple shows at the end of December. And we're working on a new album right now.
Nice.
And I'm just always doing things.
Yeah, I think that's one of the benefits of all the technology now is that it kind of loosens the urgency a little bit because you can kind of release whatever it is that you're doing, whatever kind of project, be it a visual art medium or something on a piece of vinyl or digitally. You can just kind of put it out there in the world whenever you're done with it. And if you've got any kind of following at all, they'll respond in the way that they're going to respond. And then you can kind of do it like that. Whereas, 25 years ago, you kind of had to, let's work on an album, let's get it out, let's go tour on it. So that's pretty good benefit to the way things are now.
I never really followed the rules or anything like that. And so, I never did what I was supposed to do. And, so I don't know.
I would say that's
supposed to make a record every year and do all these things, but I never did that. I just made the records when I wanted to make them. And Whether that's good or bad, I don't know. But I don't follow the rules so well. So
I mean, I don't see a lot of benefit to just being that rule follower when you're doing something as I don't know what the word is, abrasive as hardcore, punk, metal, whatever you want to call the music that we're making is. But most of us in this world, in this little subgenre, subculture, are definitely guilty of not following the rules. That's kind of what gets us where we are, I think.
Yeah, I don't want to just make records, just have it out. I want to make records that I like. So,
I mean, that's
sometimes it takes more time.
Well, yeah, if you made records just to make records, I think that would be something. I was just talking about this with somebody else. If you did something just to do it, the people that are your fans would recognize that pretty quick, and I don't think that would be. You would regret that. I think if you just made things like you said just to make them, just to stay busy. So
yeah.
I, as a fan, would rather you take your time and create the thing that you want to present to the world.
Yeah, it's just I made a lot of records, so I'm not in a rush.
Yeah. I mean, at a certain point, I think there's when you're younger, there's more urgency and you got more to say sometimes, especially when you're not. Let's see, how do I say this? So at my age, I'm married, I've got kids, I own a small business, and I'm doing some stuff I really enjoy doing. I'm not as angry as I used to be. And when you're angry, you got a whole lot more to say, and so it just kind of comes to you faster, I think, as we get a little older. And we start to kind of settle into our lives, I do think that it comes a little slower. I don't know if that makes sense, but it sure feels like it to me.
That's not the case with me, actually, but it's not the case at all. It really comes down to the music and not being redundant.
Okay.
Lyrically, I have an unlimited amount of things to talk about and sing about, whatever, write about. But with music, you have to be careful not to just keep going over the same tropes over and over and over again. At least in my opinion, I don't want to just keep repeating myself like that, and so therefore that takes more time.
Hell
And
yeah.
that's why I've been more precious with it lately than I normally maybe would have. And I have a couple newer guys in the band that I'm trying to get them up to speed about how to record and things like that. There's that aspect of it too, but running out of ideas is luckily not something that ever really burdens me. So I've been blessed in that way that I don't have that obstacle. But.
No, that's awesome. And redundancy would be, like you said, it would just be useless, kind of, right?
It would bore me, so I don't want to do that.
Yeah, it would be very boring.
What I want to do, I'm lucky enough to be able to. So.
Kind of just do things how you want to do them, right? You get to do things at your own speed. I mean, not everybody's afforded that, and that's pretty nice. It's good that you recognize and appreciate it. A lot of people don't get that chance, so
I try to make it so, like, if I don't like it, then I shouldn't do it.
Right. Well, if you don't like it, I think it'll come through the speakers, right? If you're just, like you said, doing it just to do it.
I don't know. Sometimes I hear some insincere stuff, and it's really popular, so it could go either way.
Oh yeah, popularity is not really a barometer that I use to tell me whether or not something's good, though. I mean,
not me either.
Yeah.
But if you're saying fans are going to listen to it and be resonating with it or whatever, I don't know. So it could go either way.
I think people in our genres of music would be pretty. They could tell if you were insincere. I think that specifically with punk and hardcore music, it is easy to tell. You're just going through the motions. I think that's something that they could pick out.
Yeah, especially when yelling. I guess your yell wouldn't be so
right.
Confrontational.
It's like kind of flat. You're like, this dude sounds bored and he's screaming like that. That would be an odd, I don't know, sensation, I guess. So with the band, okay, like you said, you've made a lot of records. Is there a particular thing that you're hoping to like leave behind when you're done and said, when you decide to call it a day? Is there a particular mark you're trying to leave behind? Is there a message you want people to hear, or is it just you want to bring art for the world to enjoy indefinitely?
I would say neither of those. I just sort of do it because I just do this. I have like a calling to do it, and this is what I do. I don't know why. I just keep doing it. I've always done it, and I don't know why. I can't sleep at night because I have ideas. I write it down. I draw them. I create things with my computer, things, and
Yeah.
can't stop it. I can't turn it off, so I just do it. There's not really any strategy or end game in mind, and I don't really even care if people. I don't really. I mean, it's nice when people enjoy it, of course, but I don't really care if people don't enjoy it. I went into this expecting that most people would not enjoy it. The majority
Okay.
are not going to like this kind of music. The majority of the human race are not going to like the kind of music that I make. So I'm okay with that. I made peace with that from before I even recorded my first track. So I don't have expectations of of that kind of accolades or anything. I'm just doing this because it's what I guess what I'm supposed to do. I don't know. I don't know. It just is what I do. I'm always doing it, and like all day long. I mean, it's the thing I do, and I don't know why it is like that. Just like it's just how it is.
That's exactly but that's why it's like that. It's just how it is. There doesn't have to be an answer to that question. That
Yeah,
is the
sorry. I
answer.
mean, it's kind of
No, that's a
long
better
to
answer than I was even considering.
I don't know. I don't know if I'd be successful at pleasing other people and things like that. That's not something I would know how to do so well. So
Yeah, it's being trying to please people all the time. I do work in a field where I deal with folks a lot, and that one's complicated, man. People sometimes they just don't want to be pleased, so it's better to not worry about it at all sometimes.
Yeah.
You were telling me that the music you listen to isn't necessarily on the streaming platforms. What is it that you're
a lot
listening
of
to?
it
What kind of
isn't.
stuff?
Yeah.
Is it a particular genre of music that you're interested in?
Well, I like a lot of extreme electronic music, and most of that's not on there. So, and I listen to like old, like Delta blues music and old kind of old timey songs and stuff. And a lot of stuff I do listen to probably is also on there. On there. It's just it's not breaking my heart to not be on streaming
Sure.
platform because I have a lot of things that I listen to that aren't on there. So it makes it's easier for me. Like with my phone, I travel a lot, so my phone is filled with songs from my computer that I put in there. And like I told you before, my family has the Apple subscription, and I thought at once, well, maybe I could use that, but if I do it on my phone, it erases everything from my phone that I put on there personally. You can't have both.
Oh,
You can only
okay.
have one or the other.
Interesting. Yeah, I
So
don't use Apple products because they confuse me. I'm a little too simple, I guess. Yeah, that's a weird one that they would affect your chosen playlists and
yeah,
things.
if you want to like save a song or like whatever it is, make it like your favorite thing, then by doing that act, it erases your entire library of songs. Like I have songs that are unfinished songs of my
Yeah,
own songs and things like that. So I'll listen to it and I'll work on it in my head while I'm listening to it and things like that. For example, those would be erased, and so I just put
interesting.
my own songs in there, and I mean I put my own songs, but I put the songs from my my computer, my library of music from other artists.
Okay.
And
So in
that'll be
addition
great.
to your own music, you put the stuff that you listen into, and if you were to change that and go to like some like a pre-made platform type thing, it would get rid of that.
Well, I have an iPhone, so that would
Okay.
I think it only works that way with Apple and an
Okay.
iPhone. Whereas if I had Spotify, I think I wouldn't have that problem.
Interesting. Yeah, I just don't use that platform very often, so I don't know. Like my wife, on the other hand, that's all she uses is the Apple one. So, but yeah, I'm a fan of physical media, so I don't need to have that stuff. I use it out of convenience when I'm like driving around or at work or whatever. But I prefer, like even last night, I watched a movie and I wanted to open up a Blu-ray disc and put it in and play it that way. I don't know. I'm just an old head like that. I prefer it. I have a small store. I sell this stuff, so I'm constantly around physical media.
You
I
sell
think it's
DVDs? Is that what you do?
yeah, man. I have a record store and a movie shop, so they're all in the same complex, and it's shocking how many people still buy that stuff. Like, I appreciate it, of course, but it's surprising. But when you're having these companies dictate what you can and can't watch, it's kind of hard to not want to own it on a physical copy, at least to me, especially places like Disney.
I grew up at a time where we had 3 channels, and you'd have to wait until a certain time to watch a show, you know. So,
right.
And if you missed it, you missed it. You don't get to rewind it or play it by selecting it. You didn't have remote controls when I was a kid until
right, a little turn dial.
8, yeah. So all this other stuff's very luxurious for me. So
right,
I'm not burdened by it. It's more convenient than it is inconvenient for me, I suppose.
I remember when like TiVo became a thing, and you were like allowed to like record TV and kind of choose what you wanted to watch, and it blew my mind. I still don't necessarily understand it. I like the idea of like Netflix, I guess, but I'm just fine having television as well. I remember having a little 13-inch TV that had to be turned by hand, and we had like maybe 6 or 7 channels. And I remember that show, the Freddy's Nightmare Show. I don't know why that popped up in my head just now, but thinking back then, that was one that I liked to watch, and it was one that got me in trouble a lot. Freddy's Nightmares. That was so bad, but it was fun though, man. What kind of movies and things do you like to watch? Do you indulge in movies at all? I feel like you'd probably. You said you like vampire stories and things. Do you like to read it, watch it, both?
Yeah, I read as well. I recently watched a French series that's called, well, in English it would be called The Revolution. It's supposed to take place right before Napoleon comes to power, and it has the theme of like zombies. And
have you read any good books this year? Anything new? Anything new? That's a good question, actually, because I use Audible, but I still like to read. I don't read a lot anymore, but anything good coming out that you're interested in?
I read Rick Rubin's book that he put out about creativity. I don't know what the title is, and I like that. And I often read mostly like surreal inspired or even Dada inspired poetry books. So that's something I'm looking at.
Hell yeah, dude. Rick Rubin's an interesting
and then I read
fella
too. Religious things sometimes.
Okay. That's amazing. Is that kind of stuff? I don't know. It seems like you have a gothic motif going on with your music and a lot of the artwork that you create. Is there a reason that you chose that, or did you not choose it, I guess? And
it chose me.
It chose you.
My family are very religious, and when I was a kid, they were super religious. And I was the way I am now, even back when I was little, and they felt that to be like devilry, So
right.
At first, I felt maybe ashamed, or I felt awkward by that, and then I embraced it, and I thought, well, that's maybe a good thing, So then at some point, I started to like what I knew from my family's perspective would be Pentecostal faith. What I knew from learning as a kid from that, and when I was like a teenager, I was rebelling and everything. And so then after that, I thought, well, I want to revisit these stories. So I read them again many times since. And they're horrific stories. It's pretty cool stuff. Like I don't understand how these guys come across with like that it's all goody two shoes stuff. It's actually really fucking evil stuff. Really.
Speaking about like religious texts and things.
What's that?
They said you're speaking about religious texts and such.
Yeah, the Bible.
Yeah. Oh no, I absolutely. Okay, that's what I thought you were talking about. I just wanted to make sure. Yeah. No, I have had the exact same thoughts. Like, there's a lot of brutal stuff happening in those books, man. A lot of.
Yeah, if you made a movie about that stuff, it would be. They wouldn't even be able to put a rating on that if they have ratings nowadays. I don't know, but some of that stuff is, really over the top, crazy stuff. And, I kind of admire it in a way. I appreciate some of that. Like the Nag Hammadi scriptures, you know what that is?
I don't know that word.
So there was Constantine he decided that he was in the Roman Empire, and he decided that because people were arguing over what religion was the real religion in the empire at the time, he said, well, we're going to sort this out. We're going to pick one religion. And so his mother liked Christianity. So he's like, okay, we'll go with that one just to get these people to shut up, And then they made the Council of Nicaea. They picked the books that they thought fit well with what would become the Bible. And the books that they didn't approve of, they didn't make the cut, So it'd be like making an album in a way. Yeah. And Constantine was sort of like the producer. So they had all these songs, and some of the songs they didn't make the cut. That song's not good enough. This song, we already talk about it on this other song, so get rid of that one. And so they narrowed it down to just the books that they used. And then they said, well, in this story, it could be portrayed that if, like in the book of Genesis. So like in the original scripture, God is he's playing with people, he's using people like puppets, and he's abusing. And the serpent is like, hey, you don't have to be a fucking slave. You don't have to fucking fall for this bullshit. Fuck God. So then that's where the apple of knowledge comes in and all that. But then they changed it around because they said, well, if people started to believe through that lens, they could attribute God with who else? The emperor. And that's me. And I don't want people to uprise against me. So we're going to change that shit. So they edited it down, and they made different versions. So the Bible that everybody knows and reads and goes to church on Sunday and praises is an edited book that was edited by this Roman emperor.
Huh.
So it's not even like the pure text anyways, which is, I find that also, amusing and interesting. So, but in the Nag Hammadi, the reason of the Nag Hammadi thing is this guy found old scrolls in a cave by accident, and he was kind of a scumbag and was trying to sell them and everything. And when they found out what it was, they were like, holy shit, this is like, this predated the Council of Nicaea's edited versions of the Bible.
Okay.
So then they transcribed it, and they found these differences, and that's how you can see like the early version versus the version that everybody knows today.
Dude, that's fascinating. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I find it to be interesting. So, and then I think about things like that. And
man, that explains so much. You're very intelligent. You got a lot of knowledge in there, man. A lot of stuff going on. Your memory is far greater than mine too. Wow, that just blew my mind. Like I gotta look into that whenever I get off of here with you. Like that. That's awesome. I also grew up in a fairly religious household, so I can parallel a lot of what you're saying and thinking and feeling.
I'm sure in Texas, definitely, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, there was one point I was going. My mom was taking me. I think it was like a Wednesday night service, and I was like, man, I don't want to go. And I was like 16. She was like, it doesn't matter what you want. You live in my house, you do what I say. And my friend was going with us for some reason. I don't remember what the deal was, but we were driving down this road, and I was just in my mom's like minivan. And I was like, I'm done. I'm out. I'm done. I don't care. I don't even want to go home. Like I'm good. And we were driving down this road going about 40 miles an hour. And I just opened the side door and jumped out that jank. And my mom is so religious that she didn't even stop, dude. She kept going. She went straight to church, bro. And I'm not like harping on my mom. My mom, do what you got to do, man. But busted me all up and stuff. And I just didn't. I got so many questions, man. Like, I'm not even opposed to the idea of it. I just like, how come when I ask a question, I can't get a straight answer? You know what I'm saying? So
I think that maybe they don't have an answer either, So
that is a large possibility.
But to be fair, a lot of people are afraid, So this is a place where they can be temporarily away from their fear, so, and maybe your mother also has a fear for you, maybe she believes some of these things and she thinks that you're going to burn in hell and all that. So she doesn't want that for you. So maybe in her way, that's a tough love thing. And at the same time, she's afraid of defying their God and afraid of what could come of it. I'm not sure, but I can understand that other people, when other people are very zealous, so to speak, and I understand it. I don't subscribe to it, but
I think you hit the nail on the head, though, and I think that's exactly how she feels. I don't hate it any more than I love it. I don't have an issue with it. I just have an issue with some of the, I don't know, in her particular building. I've seen some hypocrisy, and I asked about it, and I got told that I was wrong, and I was like, that's weird. And so I just didn't go back. I'm not going to hate on them, but I'm not going to participate in something that I find just completely hypocritical.
Well, hypocrisy is the cornerstone of it all anyways, it
unfortunately is.
Down to the fact that, it's an edited book. And
right.
Then they won't question the edited version. So, I don't know. I don't know how to wrap my mind around something like that. But there are people who just want to have, I guess they just want to have guidance, Yeah. And it doesn't matter. They also haven't read the book, most of them.
A lot of them, dude.
So they're just, it's cosplay for a lot of people, I think. But it's a cosplay where I think the intention is for them to feel peace, for them to feel good, maybe to do better. Whether it happens or not, I'm not sure. This sounds like I'm 100% against religion, and I'm not.
No, I didn't think that
it's
at all.
More like that I have, I have a critical eye to some parts of it that are being mistreated and being misinterpreted and misrepresented. So
absolutely. And it didn't sound to me like you were wholly against it or anything.
Your listeners might find that, so that's my disclaimer.
Sure.
Humanity is a dangerous animal to be inside of,
Yes. If I was to say that we're inherently selfish as people, do you agree with that or disagree with that?
I don't think that everyone is the same.
Okay.
So I think that everybody has their own ways, their own natures. I know some people who are inherently overly too generous. And then I know others who are overly selfish.
Okay.
I know people who are in somewhere in the middle with different variations.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that there's one or the other. I would say probably the most selfish people are the people you're going to know as household names because they've gotten themselves to a position of power and wealth. And so that's why they're more recognizable and maybe more in your line of sight. But
okay.
I don't think that everybody is inherently selfish.
Okay.
Although, reading my lyrics, it would definitely give people the impression that I feel that way. But in reality, I do not think that way. But there are definitely quite a lot of selfish people who are ruining for their own reasons.
I like that way of looking at it, that there's like a scale and you could fall anywhere on the spectrum of that kind of thing. And the reason I ask is because we were just talking about how people are kind of dangerous and that is the case, I think. And I was talking to somebody on a different conversation altogether. And I said, man, people are inherently selfish. They want to do things for themselves most of the time. And I guess I was generalizing everybody. I didn't really mean every single person, but this person couldn't believe that I said that. And they were like, no, man, people are inherently kind. And I was flabbergasted by that statement because I see, on the news or on whatever feed of whatever I'm on, that may not be the case, but also we like to sensationalize things and only show people the negative side of us and things. So I guess it's kind of built to look that way.
It's also probably that, where you are and who and who's in your circle of friends.
Very true.
I think that probably the only thing I could say with confidence that is a generalization of humanity is what I said before, is that the human is afraid.
Mm.
And so the fear would lead towards being more generous, because if you're more generous, then you're going to have people around you and you're going to be able to feel more protected by that community. If you're more selfish, that's because you've maybe been hurt and you're afraid you're going to be hurt again. So you want to get everything you can to keep yourself protected and fortified with that
Mm.
wealth or that power or whatever it would be, that position, whatever it would be, and different factors like that. I think that fear might be the driving force behind all of these things, maybe, or maybe just people are generally nice, and generally bastards.
At the same time, a little bit.
No, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, also some at the same time. I know people who can be a bastard one minute and super friendly the next.
Yeah.
Everybody's made up of different stuff. So,
But this is what I like to talk to people about. I didn't have a set idea of what I wanted to speak about. I just wanted to talk to you for a little bit. You're an interesting person. You make interesting music, and I like to get different perspectives and points of view. And I really appreciate that you're talking to me right now. So
well, thanks for
this
having me.
is absolutely, man. I know you got a lot of stuff to get going back to, but DWID, thank you so much for your time, brother. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to a new album from you guys. Do you have any idea when that might be happening, or are you just in a writing process right now?
Well, when it's done, it takes time that it
Mhm.
sits from the record companies and things like that. So I'm not sure.
Yeah.
There's been different timings based off of during COVID. They had this thing where like Adele and people like that were putting out vinyl records that nobody played, and that's just backlogged all the pressing plants. You probably heard about that since you had a record store.
Oh yeah, I'm very familiar with that
So then
problem.
everything got pushed back like 6 to 8 months before a record could come out. And then
Mhm.
after it comes out, it sits, in a warehouse. And then the labels usually like promote the record, behind the scenes with media people. And then they release it. So then that adds extra time to the factoring. So
Yeah, it's pretty crazy how all that stuff works. When I haven't made any like vinyl yet. I've done 2 CDs on a label way back when, and I've done like 5 cassettes this year. Um, I would like to do some vinyl next year, and it's a daunting like thing to look into, man. It's like it's very costly first and foremost, but yeah, I mean, if you're not somebody of importance, there's no telling what holdups there might be. I don't know all the ins and outs of all that yet, so I'm just slowly starting to peel back the layers.
yeah, I mean, it's always for me like whenever I personally make a record, like if I pay for everything and do everything
Mhm.
myself, which I've done often,
Yeah,
I don't ever really look at it that way. I just know that it has to come out, so I do it. So
yeah,
if you have a project that you feel that strongly about, then I say do it anyways. Who cares?
absolutely.
But if it's
Yeah,
somebody else's project and they're dragging ass and you can see that they don't give a shit, then I would say don't invest your time or money in it at all and get
right.
as far away from it as possible. Because there are some people who just are not driven. They want. I think that they want the spotlight, but they don't want.
Hmm.
They don't want. I don't know. I don't really know what the point is. What
Well,
they're. But I run into people like that, and it annoys me. Yeah, I think
yeah.
that someone has to believe in what they're making for it to have any point, in my opinion. So when they don't show those kinds of attributes as a person, or even when they're representing, people often tell me, because I've been making records a long time, younger people will say, hey, how can I get a record deal, and I understand that they want to go from zero to the top right away. There's no shame in that. But what I often say is, what you have to do is you have to be willing to get a job at a gas station and save up all your money to pay for gas so that you can drive to the next show with your band. You have to save up that money at that gas station where you're working night shift so that you can pay for that vinyl record to be pressed, because no label will touch you. You're going to do it anyways. fuck everybody, you're going to do it no matter what, because you believe in it. And even if nobody buys it, you still do it and you don't care. And that's the type of people, when a record, in my opinion, when a record company is looking for a band, if they see a person that driven, they're going to be more likely to work with them than work with someone who's like, oh, that's popular on the radio this week. Oh, let me try to write a couple of those out there, because that shit's just going to, that's not going to hold the test of time, in my opinion. But who knows? I mean, I don't know. Personally, though, I think, passion and belief in yourself and belief in your art is the most important thing you can do with any kind of creative outlet. So,
no, 100%.
I went on a tangent there, Randall. I'm
no,
sorry.
Dude. No, it's awesome, man. This is exactly the kind of stuff I'm looking to hear from people. And like, I mean, I'll be working I have a part-time job at a theater where I bartend, and people ask me like, don't you have like a store? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, why do you do this? And I'm like, well, I have a label. I want to put out tapes and stuff. And like, I want to make it happen. So I make it happen. And I just work a little extra so I can make sure that the things that I'm trying to do. And like you said, like if I get stuck with a crate of tapes, it is what it is. I'm going to do it anyways. This is bands I believe in, people I like, and art that I want out there in the world. And if people don't respond to it the way I did, whatever, I get to still put it in my cassette player and hit play, or CD player, throw it on the turntable, whatever. Let's do it on Spotify if you need to. But yeah, man, I mean, if you want to do it, do it. If you have passion, if it's obvious, and obviously if people don't care, they don't care. Should you care? I don't know. I don't. So
everybody has the ability to be creative and to make things. Anything that you could think of, you can make that happen. You just have to have the drive to do it. And if you don't feel that you have the drive, find that drive, find it inside, find it from things that have made you angry, things that have made you happy, whatever it is, whatever emotion it is, use that as your fuel to get to where you want to go. Because 100%. If you don't, you're going to be probably bitter and resentful that you never took those. And even if you take a chance to do something and it doesn't work out, at least you tried to do it,
Dude, thank you. Yes, 100%. When I was moving to this place, it was only a few months ago, I was throwing away like stacks of canvas paintings that I had done. And my wife was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, I didn't really paint them for anybody else to look at. I kind of painted them just to paint them. And I don't care if I sell them. So I just tossing them. I'd rather have the space. I'll put more blank canvases in there and paint more. And she's like, oh. And I was like, I don't really give a shit. Like, you want to keep a couple? You like them, take them. I was like, but, I was like, you know what I'll do? I'll set them in the curb, like, because it was nice weather. So I'll set them outside. And if somebody sees them, wants to take them, they can have them. And she's like, all right. And a few of them were taken by people. I don't know who or why, but cool. Yeah, I just painted them to paint them. And it wasn't, I guess, I think I intended to set up like an Etsy store or something. But the real deal is that I just wanted to paint. And so I did. And it wasn't really for anybody else. So I do understand that it's got to get out of your system, out of your brain.
Yeah.
It's going to bog you down if it doesn't. So, but dude, I really appreciate your time. DWID, thank you so much for hanging out with me, man.
Thank you, Randall.
Absolutely, man. I look forward to a new record whenever that may come. Maybe we'll talk again one day. If you come back to Texas, I will definitely be there. So you have a lovely evening. Hell yeah. Thanks, bud. See you later.